Okay, to continue our notes on the different types of equations, we're going to take this one from factored form to standard form. So all we have to do is some multiplying, some FOIL and distributive property. So I'm going to keep the 2 here, and I'm going to go ahead and FOIL my x minus 4 times my x plus 1. So x times x is x squared. X times 1 is x minus 4x minus 4. So that gives me 2 times x squared minus 3x minus 4. And then I'm just going to distribute my 2. 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. This is the standard form equation for that factored form equation. So it's just multiplying and distributive property. And if you want to double check it, you could put it in your calculator. I know the ones we use in class have colors, so it's kind of nice to do that. So if I do 2 parentheses, x minus 4, x plus 1. And then I'm going to do the second one. I'm going to put in, oops, you know what? I forgot to put my y equals. I would have gotten points off on my test for that. Y equals 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. Now, when I hit graph, watch what happens. The first one's going to graph. And actually, I'm going to make the second one, if I go all the way over here, I'm going to make it a thicker line. You can't see that. I make it a thicker line. So when the second one graphs, it'll look a little bit differently than the first one. Oop, I can't get out of the glare. Okay, we'll make 2. Okay, so here comes the first graph. And now the second graph is going to graph in a thicker. And it graphed right over top of the same graph. So I know that my answer is the same equation as this one, just in a different form. All right, next up, we're going to go from standard form to factored form. So factored form was always going to have the x minus r. So this is what we've been working on since the beginning of school. We're just going to factor this. So if you wanted to go to your box, you could. We're going to find factors of 24 that add up to negative 11. So I'm going to be the calculator table for you. And there are the factors of 24 that I have to choose from. Would any of those add up to negative 11? If I put the right signs, negative 3 minus 8, y equals. So we've got the standard form, and we just factored it. Don't forget the y equals. That's very, very important. Okay, next up, we go from vertex form to standard form. All righty. So this one, I want you to be really careful. X plus 1 squared does not equal x squared plus 1. Please do not do that. X plus 1 squared is actually x plus 1 times x plus 1. And then we use FOIL to multiply it out, just like we did at the beginning. So we do x times x times 1, 1 times x, and 1 times 1. So x plus 1 squared is actually x squared plus 2x plus 1. So please be very careful. Do not do this first part because it will be wrong every time. Write it twice and FOIL. And now we're going to distribute the 3 and get 3x squared plus 6x plus 3 minus 5. And we will completely simplify to get 3x squared plus 6x minus 2. So there is the standard form equation of that vertex form equation. So it's just some multiplying and distributing, but be sure you do your squared carefully. Write it twice and FOIL. The last one is probably the trickiest of them all, from standard to vertex. So we don't just, because this one does factor, we don't just factor it, we've got to find the vertex. So remember, when it's in standard form, the vertex, the x-coordinate was negative b over 2a. And then we'll use that to find the y-coordinate, because vertex form looks like this: x minus h squared plus k. I just need the h and the k. Now on this one, I can tell the a value in front is a 1, because the a value in standard form and vertex form are going to be the same. I just need to solve for my vertex. So let's do that. If b is negative 10, then negative b is positive 10, just the opposite sign, over 2a. A is 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. The x-coordinate of my vertex is 5. Now I'm going to go back and find the y-coordinate of my vertex. 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 24. All right, you can do that in your head, or you can grab your handy-dandy calculator. 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 24 is negative 1. So my vertex is 5, negative 1. So to put this into vertex form, I'm going to put these in for h and for k. So y equals, remember a was 1, so I don't need to write anything there, x minus 5 squared minus 1. And again, you can graph those and make sure that they're the same graph. So you're going to practice changing your equations from one form to the other and walk through the steps. One more problem. They're giving us information. We've got a quadratic equation that contains this point and has this vertex, and we're going to have to write all three forms. So we're going to start out with vertex form. I forgot to put the y equals on all of these. All right. So for vertex form, I know I've got my h and my k. So if I start out, I'll just put a x plus 3 squared minus 8. So the only thing I need to find is this a value. And the only information they gave me was a point, a coordinate. Well, this coordinate happens to be x and y. So we are going to, in this equation, we're going to substitute negative 1 for x and 0 for y. And we're going to solve for whatever this a value is. So watch. 0 is going to go in for y. A, I don't know. That's what I'm going to find. X is negative 1, and then plus 3 squared minus 8. So let's solve it. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So add 8 to both sides. You get 8 equals a times 4. And when I divide both sides by 4, I find out that a is 2. So now I'm ready to write my equation. So you go back to this equation, y equals. Now I know that a is 2. I know my vertex was negative 3, negative 8. And there's my equation. So I knew my vertex. I plugged that in. I took this point xy, plugged it in to solve for the value of a, which was 2. All right, that's pretty good. Now we want to write it in factored form. Okay, so if I start out with 2, x plus 3 squared minus 8, well, probably the best way to get to factored form would be to multiply it all out and then try to factor it. So let's actually do standard form first. Let's come down here and we're going to write standard form. So remember, to do x plus 3 squared, we have to do x plus 3 times x plus 3. Don't write x squared plus 9. We're going to foil. first, outer, and then inner, and then last. So y equals 2 times x squared plus 6x plus 9 minus 8. So we'll distribute the 2 and get 2x squared plus 12x plus 18 minus 8. And our final answer is 2x squared plus 12x plus 10. That is the standard form equation. Now we're going to take the standard form equation and factor it to get the factored form equation. So we'll copy that up here. Y equals 2x squared plus 12x plus 10. Okay, deep breath. When we factor this, we need to look at the GCF to take out first. Well, they all have a 2. So if I factor out a 2, I'm left with x squared plus 6x plus 5. And now to factor what's in the parentheses, I need factors of 5 that will add up to 6. Well, guys, there's only one way to get factors of 5, and that's 1 times 5. So x plus 1, x plus 5. Whew. That was a lot of work, but we got it done. We have 3 forms of the exact same equation.